right, let's get this started. Hi, I am Dr. Jacob Lauritzen, and this is Read, Write, and Cite, the channel where I teach you how to read, write, and cite for your college classes. In this video, we're going to be talking about parallelism. This is something that honestly I didn't learn in school. It wasn't until a teacher that my attention had been drawn to this. But it's a really important concept that takes your writing and elevates it and makes it, well, for lack of a better term, parallel. So let's start with a simple definition. I've got Wikipedia pulled up here. You search parallelism, this is what pops up. In grammar, parallelism, also known as parallel structure, it's a balance within one or more sentences or similar phrases or clauses that have the same grammatical structure. Let me kind of explain what that means, and then I'm going to show you some examples. In other words, if you have a sentence that has, say, a list, right? And you're going to list like 3 things. You create sort of a pattern in the structure. If you phrase it one way for the first 2 items in the list, and then you change the structure for the 3rd item, it's no longer parallel. It's not consistent grammatically within itself. So the smoothest, the most poetic, if you will, the most parallel structure is to recognize the structure that you're using for your list and simply repeat it. Does that make sense? Let me show you some examples. Okay, so if we're looking here on the screen, it says, for lacking parallelism. Let's zoom in a little bit. She likes cooking, jogging, and to read. That's not parallel. That's backwards, because what we've done is we have this structure of our pronoun, our verb. We have cooking, jogging. These are things that she likes to do. They're in the present tense. Excuse me. And to read. We change to this infinitive form of this verb, and it changes the pattern, right? So if we change from this structure, these verbs ending in ing that are describing what she likes, to read, that's not consistent. It's not parallel anymore. Does that make sense? So what's the best way to fix it? Well, reading. Does that make sense? She likes cooking, jogging, and reading. Oh, you start to hear how that's consistent. It's got this structure that's repeating. It's smoother. It flows better, more poetic, if you will. And so here again is the example. This is the parallel example. She likes cooking, jogging, and reading. Or another example might be she likes to cook. So we're changing it to the infinitive form, the base form of the verb. The form that starts with to, right? To cook, to jog, and to read. It's just not repeating to. So you could go either way, but you want to be consistent. Now, why do you want to be parallel? It's going to create, like we've said, kind of a smoother rhythm with the writing. It's going to match itself internally. Its structure is going to be consistent, and that's going to make it smoother, because if you switch grammatical structures or styles within the same sentence, it's going to add extra and unnecessary words, which are going to bog down, kind of mess with the flow of the sentence. It's not going to work as well, right? Just like if you've got a structure that's not working, you're going to want to simplify it to a structure that's a little smoother. And especially if in a list, which can be parallel or not, you're going to want to make sure that it's consistent internally. Okay, so one more example. He likes baseball and running. Well, they're 2 different things, right? We've got a noun and a verb, right? It's not going to work well together. So how do we make it work together? You find the right structure to repeat this. So he, pronoun, likes verb, playing verb, baseball, and running. He likes playing baseball. Now we've turned it into the action, right? And running. So we've made it 2 actions. Or back to this infinitive. He likes to play baseball and to run. You see how it's changed the structure so that it matches itself? Okay, one more example. Here we go. The dog ran across the yard, jumped over the fence, and sprinted away. That's not consistent. So let's identify the structure. The dog, that's our subject. What did it do? It ran. Where did it run? Across the yard. So across the yard, jumped over the fence, and sprinted away. Sprinted away, it's got it highlighted because that's not consistent. But let's understand what is. Ran across the yard. So we've got verb, and then it's a prepositional phrase. Across, that's our preposition. The yard finishes the phrase. Jumped, preposition is over, finishes the phrase with the fence, and sprinted away. Now we're not consistent because away doesn't have the prepositional phrase. Okay, so let's look at the corrected version. The dog ran across the yard, jumped over the fence, and sprinted down the alley. Down is our preposition. The alley finishes the phrase. You with me so far? This is what the concept of parallelism is. It's finding structures like a list that have a pattern, a grammatical pattern based on its parts of speech that you can kind of recognize within a sentence. A list starts once you have, well, in some cases, you can have a pattern of 2 or 3 or more, but you want to make sure that they match, right? If you're listing a noun and a verb, you're going to have some issues if you're trying to describe something about the subject, right? And so we saw examples of that. We saw how we're switching from one verb tense to another tense. You got to make them consistent. Or we had the structure here at the bottom where we had the verb followed by prepositional phrase, verb, prepositional phrase, and then it didn't follow. So to fix it, we had to recognize the pattern and then repeat that structure, verb, prepositional phrase. That's what the concept is. Now, being able to recognize it and being able to do it takes time. It takes understanding these different parts of speech, these different grammatical structures. And so when I say it's kind of like a step above, it's kind of a level above, because it does understand you, it does require you being aware of the patterns and the structures in your own writing. But when you start to recognize it, you are going to increase the level and the quality of your writing so much more. It will have a sort of poetic quality to it because it's going to be internally consistent. It's going to flow. It's going to seem more poetic or a higher level of prose in the writing. I hope this this concept kind of makes sense the way I've explained it. There are a lot of great resources on the internet. I just pulled up one to try and explain it. But that's what parallelism is. It's keeping things parallel and consistent. But to really be able to apply it takes practice and it takes time. Even now, as a high school teacher and a college professor, when I start making a list, I think about the structure that I'm using because I learned through classes like this that I need to pay attention, and it really does improve your writing. So I challenge you to really try to pay attention, to practice, and to just do your best to find internal consistency, recognize the structure, grammatical structure you're using, and just level up your writing. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm Dr. Jacob Lauritzen. This has been Read, Write, and Cite, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.